right. Welcome to the Renaissance Exchange. Today we have an amazing, beautiful, intellectual woman named Yhane Smith, who is the creator of Harlem Queen and audio drama, historical fiction masterpiece. Masterpiece. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. I really love that. Can you please tell the people who you are?
Thank you. Gosh, great Quan, that was so nice. Lovely introduction. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me so I can blab about the Harlem Renaissance. My name is, like you said, Yhane Smith, and I created and I write and I independently produce Harlem Queen, which is an audio drama based on the life and times of Madame Stephanie St. Clair. So, yeah, I can blab about the Harlem Renaissance and Stephanie St. Clair for hours, but I'll spare you all of that.
But that's the point because that's actually my favorite point of our history for sure, because that was the abundance of political enlightenment, the arts, leadership, and finding ourselves in terms of culture, our culture, and the diversity in that as well. So we're definitely gonna get to that point, but I'm curious on where you're from and what was your upbringing like?
So I'm actually from Jersey. I was born and raised in a small town called Newtonville, New Jersey, which is right next to Hamilton, which is the blueberry capital of the world. So I grew up in the 70s. I was born in the 60s. I know I don't look it, but
Look great.
Thank you. So I grew up in a very rural town in the South Jersey. So it was a predominantly Black town, and a lot of the people in my community were Southerners. So my mother was from South Carolina. Just about everyone in our church was like either from North Carolina or Florida or Georgia or South Carolina. Anyway, so like you were saying, when I was a teenager, I was really into poetry, and the first poet I learned was Langston Hughes. And then when I realized that Langston Hughes came from this world, at least to me, represented this world of not only poetry, but like intellectualism, sophistication, elegance, the quote unquote, the talented 10th, which, I don't support that, but, that was there also. I don't really think there's only a talented 10% of us who can, save us, quote unquote, save us. But I was fascinated by that whole era, the music, the style, Madam's C.J. Walker, the quote unquote first Black woman millionaire.
Mm.
So yeah, it was just something I was always fascinated in, an era I was always fascinated with the literature, Zora Neale Hurston, Nella Larson, Countee Cullen, all of those writers. I just was just crazy reading those things when, at a good time when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
Which I think is a good time to, engage in all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kudos to you, because during that time, 12, 13, I was considered youth at risk. I didn't read or anything at all. I was dabbling into some bad things. So the fact that you were reading and diving into this beautiful culture of ours, that's profound. And it goes to show the excellence that you've cultivated now. For
Thank
sure.
you. Well, I also have to shout out like my sister. I'm always shouting out my older sister who's like 15 years older than me.
Mm.
So she was the one who introduced me to like this book called Before the Mayflower. I don't know if you know that book. Anyway, and she was, she was a writer. She was an activist. She was a Black Panther. That's how I got the name Yhane instead of the name like Susan or Michelle, which is her name, because she told my mother to name me something, quote unquote, Afrocentric. So So I have to credit her for influencing me that way. And like I said, I grew up in the country. There was nothing else to do
Mm.
besides, running along dirt roads and read books. So
That's amazing. I wish, well, I've always wanted to grow up in the country. Um, Maya Angelou, I remember she previously said there's those who are from the city, and when they get exposure to the country, that's for them and they know it's right. And then there's people that are from the country that get exposure to the city and they know that's their calling. For her, it ended up being from the city and then going down south. She knew that was her calling. So that's
hmm
that's how it is for me. Even though I live in Rochester, going outside and enjoying nature, that's just a part of who I am. I love that. I love that
nice,
experience for sure because you connect with the higher power, you're connected with nature and stuff like that. It's real meditative. And that's the type
wonderful.
of person I am for sure.
That's beautiful.
So when did you start to take writing seriously?
I always wrote, even, as a child, I was always writing things, and it was always my dream to become a novelist, or I didn't know that, movies were written, and, I just didn't understand the whole scripts and things like that as a child, of course. So, um, I think I've been writing for a long time, and I would go through, one of the things that was frustrating for me was that I would, apply for fellowships and writing programs and get to the second round or become a finalist, but never, you know, win. So that was very frustrating for me because I thought that the stories that I was writing were interesting. So I decided that I'm going to save my overtime. I work full time at a public school. I'm not a school teacher, but my day job is at a public school in Harlem. And so I would save my overtime. And I said, I'm going to figure out a way to make this myself. Of course, it's a period piece. So I didn't feel comfortable with creating this as a film or a short because it's a period piece. The story takes place in the 1920s and 30s. But I figured an audio drama would be quote unquote affordable. I know I keep doing these air quotes, but
So
everything is
good.
like air quotes.
Yeah.
Um, affordable and accessible for people to listen to, while they're going for a walk, like what you said, going for a walk or going for a run or doing your laundry. So I guess a long story short, that's a long answer to say that once I started taking myself seriously about forget these gatekeepers, forget these for me, it was like, I'm not going to wait for someone to give me permission to create my stuff because otherwise it will never get out there, you know? So once that clicked for me and I, figured out a way to do that, I just feel so much better. Like I get to meet people like you. um, and I'm so glad that people all over the world are listening to this story. If I had waited for someone to say, some reader in, some midwestern state who just reads scripts for like $25 a script to say, oh, this is great, this should win our writing contest or whatever, it would not ever gotten made. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. So you're a go-getter. Like that makes you a go-getter and not being complacent and letting others dictate your future. Like you had this strong desire to put this into fruition and you did it. That's profound. That is amazing. I'm glad
Thank
that
you.
you did it and the content is amazing. The content is
Thank you.
beautiful for sure. And that's actually inspirational because as a writer myself, I was trying to figure out like what's my next call, and I always wanted to write a short film and write a full movie, and I ended up writing a short film and called Serendipitous, and I posted it in this contest, and I had to pay for the contest,
Mm-hmm.
and I made it well, there was like three different, well, it's like five different parts. Like I guess people review it and they will either score it or decide, okay, this can go to the next round. I got to that first part, and then that second part, they didn't want to move forward with it and stuff. And I was devastated because that was my first short film,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't do anything with it. So
Is it a
hearing
script or is it a film?
is a script, a short
Okay.
film. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent that in. So just hearing you share that, I have to do something with it. I have to collaborate. I either have to reach out to people and see like let's make this happen. Let's create this short film. And I know right now we're going through a pandemic and stuff, but I know for sure I want to put that into the material world for sure. And just hearing that
Mm-hmm.
from you inspired me. So thank you for sharing that for sure.
Oh, you're very welcome. I can't wait to see your film
Appreciate it.
when it
Yeah,
happens.
absolutely.
And let me know how I can help.
I can
I've had
tell.
to.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying how I'm learning through this process. I launched Harlem Queen, I think, in 2018. It's now 2020. During this process, how valuable community is and your support is. So it started with a writers group. I'm part of a wonderful writers group, and so they help me with feedback on the scripts to make the script stronger. Some of them are actors, some of them. So I had a pool of actors. I had um, so and then I just had to pull everything together like a studio and all of that stuff, and then editing, getting an editor. I edit it myself now, a sound designer. So I was just the point that I'm trying to make is I personally never realized the value of a community until I started putting this show together.
Mm,
It's you I people say you can't do it alone, and it's truly like you could, but you probably don't want to.
yeah, absolutely.
It's so nice having the feedback and some, like you said, some collaboration and someone who's, people who are supporting you, who are just like you. I mean, gosh, the wonderful things you said to me on my on Instagram was so nice. I mean, those are like just you listening to it and saying you enjoy it.
Yeah,
That is what keeps me going.
yeah,
You don't understand how I feel good about what I'm doing, but there are moments when I'm like, oh God, is this is this is this worth it? What am I doing? Da, da, da. And just seeing someone like you support storytelling and my
yeah.
stories is just profound. That's profound
Wow.
and inspires me.
Wow, that's chill inducing, and I really appreciate that because a part of my mission is to help people strive for what they want in life. Like that's my ultimate why and stuff. So hearing that makes me feel good. And since we're diving into community, let's talk about the Harlem Renaissance. Let's get into it. I've never ever got the opportunity to have like an in-depth conversation of what I know about the Harlem Renaissance and to just share perspectives. So I'm gonna give you a rundown of what I know, and I'm curious to see what you know in terms of the Harlem Renaissance, and then we will grow together. So
For sure. Good.
absolutely. So with the Harlem Renaissance, like for me, I can't start off with talking about the Harlem Renaissance. I have to first dive into the Great Migration. So
Right.
and like our people coming from the South, we had to travel, escape to the North. Sometimes there was opportunities for work. Sometimes we just had to get away from that plantation. But even during that time, there was storms and stuff that was happening that was destroying the crops in the South, where now
Mm-hmm.
the plantation owners they they didn't know what to do, and the crops wasn't growing and stuff like that. So then the slaves, they're expendable. And but
Mhm.
well, even if they wasn't considered slaves, individuals that were in the South that were working on the farm, they no longer were needed. So a lot of them were drowning, dying because of harsh
Mhm.
conditions. And then some people wanted better opportunities for their family. So then that's when it started to migrate. And
Mhm.
Harlem wasn't even the first place that
Mhm.
our people were going to. Like the number one place I found was Chicago. It was
Mhm.
Chicago, and then where was it? No, 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 no. It was Detroit. It was our people went to Detroit, Chicago, and then we started to go to Harlem. So the most populated was Detroit, then Chicago, then it was Harlem, and then there's places like Columbus, Ohio. Our people were going,
Mhm.
Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and so
Mhm.
it's not just in Harlem where we migrated. So it's important for people to know that. So
Mhm.
when we go into these other cities and stuff, we start to see historical. We start to see like the artistic natures that's happening in certain cities that resonate with us because that's where our people were going and stuff.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but unfortunately, a lot of those places you'll see have high poverty and stuff like that. So that's because a lot of our people were just going to these places and then were in harsh conditions. And speaking
Mhm.
of the harsh conditions, there was a place in Harlem where a lot of our people were going called Black Bohemia. And
Mhm.
that area with Black Bohemia, that's where a lot of the apartments, the rooms and stuff were very low scale. They construction was bad and stuff like that, or there would be a family of five, one bedroom. The
Mhm.
conditions were very harsh, and then they had to pay such a high rate,
Mhm.
and that was a tragedy. But at the same time, it's still better than what we were experiencing in the South.
Mhm.
So people just started coming and coming, especially with leaders coming to Harlem during that time, because that's when the boys he he decided that he wanted to come from I think it was Atlanta and stuff like that. They already had NAACP that was
Mhm.
manifesting, and well, at that same time, there was this guy. His name was Philip Payton. So to me,
Oh.
he's
Mhm.
yeah, Philip Payton. What he did
Mhm.
was so smart. He was like a real estate agent at that time,
Mhm.
and what he did, he saw the harsh conditions and living in those harsh conditions and having to pay so much, like it didn't make sense to him. So he wanted to take advantage of other real estate owners and the property that they had, which was in better locations, more higher skill brownstones. And
Mhm.
what he said was, "I let me take over this complex for you, and I can guarantee it and rent it out because the Harlem Renaissance, that location was built actually for white people at first because
Mhm.
that they were building a railroad system, the trains, so people coming from like the up, what was it? They were coming from trying to remember in the main city
From
like Fifth Ave and stuff like that,
yeah.
and once they needed a place where they can live in abundance and stuff, so that's why they built those apartment complexes, which initially was nice,
Mhm.
but then they ended up building it before people were ready to move there, so it just was sitting there.
Mhm.
So the real estate agents were desperate. So
Mhm. Mhm.
so
Mhm.
what Peyton did, Philip Payton, he said, let me help you and I will get it rented out and stuff like that. So, and then
Mm-hmm.
he changed the rate. Like, okay, they would say something like, um, we want you to rent it out for $2 or $5, let's say, because the currency was way different back then. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, he'll say something like, I'll rent it out for $10, and then he'll take
Mm-hmm.
a percent of that, and then he will reach out to a middle class family and get them in that place, which is better
Mm-hmm.
than paying $15 in that condition and living in better condition now paying 10. He'll take a
Mm-hmm.
percent of that. So he started doing that, and that worked out for our people very well,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that when I'm explaining the Harlem Renaissance, I always want to bring up that, like, pre Harlem Renaissance to get to that point, and
Absolutely.
why people started to come there in abundance, because now there was a lot of different cultures coming there, like people from Jamaica, all
Mm-hmm.
different type. Because with the slave ships, our people weren't just coming to North America; they were in South America as well, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Barbados and all of those
Mm-hmm.
places and stuff. And that's actually the most, like, our people were there. Um, I don't remember the percentage, but majority of them started there, and then that's when they discovered Virginia, and
Mm-hmm.
during that
Mm-hmm.
what was it, 1619, something like that,
1619, right? A little, maybe a little before.
a
Mm-hmm.
little before that, right? So
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so yeah, that's what I understand. Well, I'm not gonna keep going, but because I was getting excited and stuff talking about the nuances, but
Mm-hmm.
but
No,
yeah,
I've learned so much from what you were just saying.
that
I mean, dang, I'm taking notes. Black Bohemia. I mean, Philip Payton. I've heard of Philip Payton before, but I would like to look into him a little more.
Absolutely. So I'm curious on, like, you initially said the talented 10th. Um, so I'm curious on if you are pro Du Bois, or are you against him, or are you for more Booker T. Washington, because they had a rivalry,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
I'm curious on how you feel about that.
Yeah. So, in my limited experience reading, like Du Bois, I read like Souls of Black Folks, but I read that so long ago. I'm Du Bois, but
Hmm.
however, um, I understand what Booker T. Washington was saying.
Yeah.
However, I don't really the notion of the talented tenth. I mean, that's to me, and I have the advantage of looking at this from 2020, not 1920,
Yeah.
is like ridiculous. Like to think that only 10%, as I understand it, the
Yeah.
philosophy was that 10% of our people were educated and able enough to, you know, lead or support or guide or educate the rest of us.
Absolutely. And I see exactly where you're coming from. It's like a it's not a caste system, but putting those individuals above others, that's not right and stuff, especially
Mm-hmm.
because we have to come together and uplift each other. But and that's just like saying, okay, white people, they are more superior than black people. So putting the name talented 10th, saying that, okay, these leaders, these that, because it was a bunch of lawyers, politician,
Mm-hmm.
writers, philosophers, stuff like that, that was within that group, saying
Mm-hmm.
that, okay, these are the best of the best, and it's kind of like they're better than the rest. Like, this is the top 10% better than the rest. I don't like that
Right.
component, but in terms of what his philosophy of putting emphasis on education and higher
Mm-hmm.
education, and bettering yourself that way to show that, um, we're just as good, if not better, than other intellectuals. So
Right.
that was something that I was always for. And in terms of Booker T. Washington, I get it as well because he is real practical. Like he wanted, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have money, you need to support your family, so you need to dive into these different trades. You're gonna learn how to
Sure.
utilize your hands, engineering, stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that, but at the same time, I'm not for um walking on eggshells when you're around white people and stuff. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something like he was real non-confrontational at that time with white
Mm-hmm.
people. So then he was probably perceived as like a puppeteer by the
Right.
boys and stuff. That's why they were constantly going at each other. But
Mm-hmm.
I see it, and he he funded the Tuskegee University.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
that definitely was something that's positive. I want to listen to his
Absolutely.
speech. I wasn't able to listen to it and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
No, I haven't listened to it. I think I saw, sorry, not saw, but listened to it maybe on YouTube, or I want to say Louis Gates did a documentary on the Reconstruction, and he might have had bits of it in his documentary.
Louis Gates.
Yeah. Um, so, but you are able to verbalize everything so much better than how I feel I can. But also going back to the talented tenth is that I agree with you. Like, well, what I will say is this: there are different types of talents, right? So some of us are intellectual, some of us are musicians, some of us are dancers, some of us are mathematicians, some of us are cooks. You know, some of us know how to design things well. And so Stephanie St. Clair, her talent was she was a brilliant mathematician
Mm,
and businesswoman. I mean, in order to run the numbers, and it's not just, you know, your basic math that you need to know. You know, it's, as I understand it, it's complicated. You need to know percentages, you need to know odds, you need to know, you know, money, you need to know credit, you need to know um, interest rates and loans and things like that. So um, that was a huge talent that she had, which I don't think would have been considered an intellectual talent.
hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, like I don't think she would have been considered an intellectual because of the no one. I don't even think people would have even recognized her her business acumen or her math skills or anything like that at that time. I'm not so sure. There's this other book that I'm always talking about called The World According to Fannie Davis, who was written by Bridget M. Davis, her daughter. Fannie Davis was a numbers policy banker in Detroit. And that book, actually, going back to what you were saying about the Great Migration, she documents that, the migration part of that through her family. Bridget Davis does, through her family, her mother, her father, and their migration up to Detroit, eventually to Detroit. So, but anyway, but one thing that got me thinking about the math and the intelligence and the talent was how she explained how her mother would sit at, you know, I think at like the kitchen table, and how she was able to like count the money and figure out the odds and figure out like, okay, I need to play this much in case this number hits so that I can cover myself. And, you know, make sure there's enough in the bank to cover if this number hits. And if there are too many numbers being played, of too much of one number being played, the odds of this hitting. And, you know, I had, you know, no idea. But I have developed a lot of respect um, as a result of reading that book.
Absolutely. And Stephanie, she probably wouldn't fall under, well, to me, that she's an intellectual because she's
Mm-hmm.
extremely radical, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time extremely intelligent. She's bilingual, one, so then her brain is operating way different from someone that just knows English, you know.
Mhm.
And I hope to learn French eventually.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it was more Creole or French,
Mhm.
but regardless, it's different from English. So just the fact that her brain is operating on that manner, and then, like you said, having to interpret and understand those different accounting and all the different nuances of math, and do it at a high rate to the point where she could put her daughter through school and have
Mhm.
her living in a different environment out in Long Island, right?
Yeah, I think it's not clear. I have Connecticut, but
Oh,
it can be Long Island.
okay. Okay. But yeah, just having and being able to pay off cops in 3 states and stuff like that. That's all because of how smart she is. So in my mind, she is an intellectual, but it's not, it doesn't fall under academia as the
Hmm.
boys. That's how
Yes.
he interprets it and stuff. So
Right.
yeah, you touch base on a couple of different books that I'm definitely gonna look up for sure. And you said that you were able to read the soul of what is it? It's the
The Souls
what's
of
it?
Black Folk.
Yeah,
The
the
Soul.
souls of, I couldn't keep up. Well, I tried to read it like two years ago. It was tough. It
It
was
is tough.
it was tough. So
And I read it way too young. I need to go back and revisit it because so many things that he was saying then are reverberating today.
mm,
So, especially as I understand it, the Reconstruction era, like the era that's pre Jim Crow, which is like the era between 1866 and like some people say 1900 or
mm.
uh, I'm sorry, what am I saying? Yeah, 1866 to 1900. Um, so he was someone who straddled, I think, both eras, the Reconstruction into the Harlem Renaissance. So uh, something which you know I didn't realize until recently, but that's pretty powerful. Like you're bridging post-slavery or recently emancipated the time of Reconstruction into this magnificent time of the Harlem Renaissance. I mean, Reconstruction was I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but that was an incredible time as well
Yeah.
um, for Black people in this country. I think a lot of people, I shouldn't say that, not a lot of people. I think some historians try to downplay that,
Mhm.
but we had Black politicians. We were developing schools, we were educating ourselves. So um, there were a lot of good things that were happening at that time as well.
So he was touching base on that within the book.
So I think how I understand it, having that background of living through that era of the like post-slavery and the turn of the century, like the 1900s, having that backstory he was able to, he's a figure in my mind who bridges that gap
Mm.
because he did have that backstory of the 1880s, and then he was bringing that experience into like the 1920s, 1930s. It's kind of like well, no, that's not a good example, but yeah, that's my perspective
Yeah.
of Du Bois.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I have to read him again.
Yeah, me as well. Well, I stopped after like the second page. I think it was like the third, because I kept looking online certain words that I didn't understand and stuff like that. But now when I have more leisure, I'm definitely gonna try to reread it or try to get through it more for sure. And your interpretation is great, and it's going to help me explore more, because I don't know much about the that Reconstruction era. I know about the emancipation, but I wanted to learn more and stuff, as you're saying. And with that background, he ended up being like a professor at at a university in Atlanta and stuff like that. So then he automatically took on that leadership role, or he was offered that leadership role for the NAACP, NAACP and stuff like that. So yeah, I see it. And they said that he was the first to get like a PhD for our people. I'm not sure how accurate that was, but I'll look deeper into that for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'll have to check also. I feel like that's correct, but I don't know. I'd have to do a quick Google
Mhm.
to confirm.
So now let's dive into Harlem Queen. Well, one more question. Have you ever heard of the bloody season of 1919?
Yes, I have. And there's this other book that I was reading about it. Oh man, I'll have to, and my bookshelf is over there. But yes, I have.
Yeah, and that was such a tragic time and stuff. And like when I reflect on it, it's scary that our people that was a reality. And like the riots that took place in St. Louis and things of that nature, like that's so scary. But at the same time, I feel it's important for our people today to know about that, so we can see how far behind we are in terms of how we're coming together. Like we experienced all of this, and then in result that ended up being the start of, well, the creation of this march. It was the silent march that took place. I don't remember what year, but I know it was post that summer. So that silent march, that was the first time that we came together and really marched in against all of those injustices that we're seeing, but not as brutal today. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up before we dive into the masterpiece of Harlem Queen, for sure, for sure. And let people, we'll conclude with that. But what was the creative process like? How did you get to the point of pen and paper or keyboard and laptop?
Mhm.
How did you get there?
So, like we were saying, I've always been fascinated by the Harlem Renaissance, and it was just something that I just wanted to write about. And uh, I did write a script, and it just needed some oomph. And so I did some quick like Wikipedia searches and learned about Stephanie St. Clair. And I thought, wow, that's some oomph. A
Uh,
Black woman policy banker during the 1920s. Um, just like everything that we're talking about is just flooded my mind. 1919, because I think I wrote this in 2018, and I was thinking, oh wow, this is 100 years later. It'll be, very interesting to write something 100 years after 1919. And then I was thinking about Du Bois, and I live in Harlem, so I used to ride my bike to work, to school, and I would see, like, the Apollo and the vestiges of the Harlem Renaissance. So I just really wanted to put all of this in one place. As well as I was watching in a series called Boardwalk Empire, and that influenced me because I think that takes place in 1919. And I thought, well, what's the Black version of Boardwalk Empire? And I was also watching Downton Abbey, and I was thinking, what's the Black version of Downton Abbey? So I thought of course, the Harlem Renaissance, when we have like our own royalty. We have like our Duke Ellington, we have like our lady sings, Lady Day, we have Lady Ella, we have, all of these, our own royalty, right? In this
Absolutely.
village of Harlem. So anyway, long story short, I wrote some scripts. Like I said, the writers group has been so wonderful with giving me feedback and encouraging me to edit and change things. And doing more research, and yeah, and it's like, oh gosh, there's just no way to put it all there. There's so much more. Like in this conversation, I'm, like I said, I'm writing notes. I'm like thinking, how can I put Mr. Payton in this in the next season?
Yeah.
You know, so there's so much with the music and the artists, and the locations. Like there wasn't just the Cotton Club. There was also Connie's Inn and the Lafayette Theater, theater, and
Dog
uh,
Tower.
yes, exactly. Yes. So, um, yeah, and so I'm writing season 3 now, and
Ah,
so
yes, that was how I was gonna conclude and ask that question if there's gonna be that season 3. Okay, good,
yeah,
good. Okay, go
yeah.
ahead.
So, and I'm learning that there were other women who were also not policy bankers on the level of Stephanie St. Clair, but they were women of color who were the accountants. So they were the ones who did, counted the money, paid out the payouts, and they worked for. Oh, there, this anyway. You have to listen to season 3.
Yeah, I can't wait. I cannot wait. So the voices are so unique, and you must have done some great research because there's a certain dialect that takes place during that time, and you was able to capture it beautifully and stuff. So did you have to go on YouTube like to try to get an understanding, or like watch movies to really get an ear for what the dialogue was like?
So thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. So I watch Turner Classic Movies a lot. So I'm very influenced by these old black and white movies from the 30s. So like Humphrey Bogart, like Audrey, Katharine Hepburn, all of those, I listen to them. I do. I watch those movies. So, but I have to give credit to the actors, because Stephanie St. Clair, who was played by Gabrielle Atkins, she really did the research on finding Stephanie St. Clair's voice. The only thing that we knew about her was that she spoke French, like French.
Yeah.
Um, and she was either from Guadeloupe or
Mm,
Martinique. So Gabby, she knows her stuff. She did her acts. She's trained in accents. She did that work. And then as far as like the slang and things, some of those terms are things that we still say today, like I got beef,
yeah. Yeah.
or give me a yard. We know what that, some of us still know what that, some of those things. And then some of those things I would read about in books, and just do a Google search for the language, like the lingo.
Yeah.
But and the other actors, like they knew when you say 1920s Bronx accent,
Mm,
it's they just
absolutely.
like got it. Dutch Schultz
Manos.
got it.
That's Manos.
Right.
Hands down. Hands down.
Yeah.
And speaking of him and yards, because I didn't know what yards were, but because he asked the guy from, I'm not sure if it was a grocery, whatever store that was, he was like, yeah, I need 5 yards and stuff. And then that's $500. I was like, oh, that's legit. Okay. That's
Yeah.
good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, like I was saying earlier about growing up in a black rural town where everyone was from the South. My father used to say yards. My
Mm,
father used to say, all right, we need a yard here. Okay, I'll break you off a yard. So that was something I grew up knowing, but I didn't realize that it was that old. You know what I mean? So I get fixated on that in particular because I was like, I identified with
mm,
that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I
for
had to put
sure.
that in there.
And that hold on. So yeah, sorry. So where was I going? Um,
You were talking about the yards, the language.
oh yeah, absolutely. And that right there, oh yeah, that shows the uniqueness of you in your writing for sure. So that's how you're gonna be famous because you're able to capture that, and not a lot of people could do it at such authenticity as you can. That's a talent. So that's gonna be like your niche because I see you all the way at the top. You created this as on 2 years. That yep, it's 2 years because you did it in 2018. I already know there's going to be abundance of success for you in 2025 for
Oh,
sure.
thank you. Thank you
Sure.
so much. That's so, see, that's so wonderful to hear. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah.
I'm
It's
going to
my
keep
pleasure.
writing and be thinking about you.
As you should. Definitely keep writing. Definitely. Because you're destined for greatness for sure.
Oh,
So with
thank you.
this group, so you found these actors and actresses in the writing group that you're in?
So a lot of different ways. So a couple of them are in my writers group. The gentleman who plays Manos, Luke Slattery, is in writers group. Um, Gabrielle Atkins, I knew from another actor. And I also put an ad in Backstage.
Okay.
So it was Backstage writers group and just asking other actors, do you know anyone who could do like a French Caribbean accent from the 1920s? And Gabrielle was just, I feel she nailed it.
Yes.
She did so much work with that. So I'm so fortunate.
Yeah. Like that voice is exotic, beautiful. Like I love that voice for sure. And then like she's so gangster. Like she is gangster and fearless at the same time. Like, but she loves hard though. Like she had a few people that she truly loved, which was the daughter. And she started to show high affection season 2 for the bodyguard. I don't remember his name, but in
Bunky.
that
Hmm.
buddy
Bunky. Hmm.
Bunky, yeah, Bunky. And I felt it, like I felt it in my heart chakra, like for sure. Like when she said hold me, and she really expressed herself how um she wanted to protect him the whole time, but in the same time it was him that was protecting her. And then that dynamic of relationship was beautiful. Like I felt it was chill inducing for sure. So
Oh,
that was a power.
wonderful.
Yeah, that was a powerful scene. That was definitely a
Thank
powerful
you.
scene. And you're
Thank
able
you.
to capture, like I'm able to really visualize scenes, especially because I love this era. So as I'm tuning in, I'm really trying to visualize um what was the sky like, and what were the people wearing and stuff. And just based on my knowledge, I know that most people had on a suit and a hat, and then some people had on the dresses and stuff like that with the wraps around their head. So I was able to imagine that when I think it was the first season. It is like the second episode or third in the first season with Marcus Garvey. It was some type of announcement or acknowledgement, and then just hearing her perspective of him and how that's a scam, what he's doing and stuff like that. So I thought that was so dope, so dope, so dope. So
Right.
you
Well,
got some good things happening.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah. I uh anyway, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Um yeah, I wanted to start with the parade, the UNIA
great.
parade,
Yep.
because I thought it was very visual. And I wanted her to talk about Garvey because she thinks she's better. But
Yep.
and she thinks she knows what she's talking about. And I really wanted that to be like a flaw on her part. Um because any she isn't any better. But you know. She thinks she
Sure.
is.
Yeah, absolutely. And because she is, what's the word that I'm looking for? Um, well, I know let's just go. Well, she is arrogant, but it's a word that I'm looking for. I don't remember, but she has a demeanor where she knows that she's right no matter what. She used words like "I always win" and stuff like that, and that right there is one of her greatest downfalls at the same time, because when her daughter got kidnapped, now she is acting impulsive, and in that impulsivity, that's causing people that are her rivals to now know her secret, because this white girl, why is she putting so much emphasis on her? She has to be the daughter, or there has to be some type of relation. She brought up a lot that caused a lot of red flags and stuff, and everybody wanted to know, everybody, and she wasn't listening at all, because um security guard and Ruby, they like, you gotta chill out. You putting all this money out and stuff. You putting yourself in a vulnerable position for people to figure out what the relationship is and stuff. So like she has like that high sense of arrogance and closed-mindedness for
Yeah.
sure. That's her
Hmm.
downfall.
Wow, you really listen to
Oh yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Sure. So what about when it was finished? Like how did you feel? Like you finished the script, and then everything was like everyone did their part. What was the feeling associated with when you completed it?
A lot of things. I was very proud. I'm very proud with the work. I'm very proud of the final project. I'm very grateful that I had, like I was saying earlier, such a wonderful community of support, like, the actors, my children, my husband, my family, the writers group, even my coworkers at school. They all, subscribe and listen to it. So I was very glad that it was out there. And like I was saying earlier, I'm just glad that it exists. And I didn't wait for someone to say, okay, you can put this out there now, because now people are listening to it and enjoying it. And then also what I realized is that this is a lesson for a lot, like this could be the introduction to a lot of people for the Harlem Renaissance. So to take that more seriously. So moving forward, like, this is, not everyone may know who Langston Hughes is, or Zora Neale Hurston, and Nella Larson, and, just, be mindful of that.
Yeah.
So also I learned a lot. I learned a lot doing it. I knew that doing it, I wouldn't know everything up front, because I don't know. I just don't think it's possible to know everything up front. So I learned how to edit. I learned about sound design. I learned about the importance of music. So moving forward, I think it's getting better, because I'm learning more. I'm feeling more comfortable directing actors. I'm feeling more comfortable in, as people say, in this world, like I'm feeling more comfortable with Stephanie St. Clair. And I'm just so excited about these other people, these other women that I'm learning about. It's like, oh man, of course there would be other Black women doing this. Like, what? Of course there would be. So I'm so excited about incorporating them in the story as well.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Like I could only imagine, because then that can be a sense of rivalry, or it could dive into the nuances of individuals that assisted Stephanie with the accounting work and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna be phenomenal. I can't wait. I definitely can't wait. In terms of
Thank you.
technology and those who wanted to create or inspiring to create a podcast, what's some of the technology that's associated with it?
So for the first season, we recorded in a studio, in a sound studio with, you know, everything professional, because it was the first time I was doing it and I wanted to make sure it sounded good.
Yeah.
So but the second season that we just did this year, we did completely remote. So so we would rehearse on Zoom, and then the actors would go and record on their own whenever they had the time, or felt, whenever they had the time. So what I learned is that, number one, the phone is really good for recording audio. The microphone and the headpiece is really good for recording audio, quality audio. The trick is making sure there's no room echo. So you don't want to record in a room where you have a lot of space. So I've been telling the actors to record in a closet, and a couple of them did that. Or a room or a bedroom where, you have your curtains, you have a rug, you have a comforter, you're padded, your sound, so you don't have that bounce back or reverb.
Yeah.
So, and some actors, I really didn't go into exactly which microphones they were using, but some did sound better than others. But across the board, there were two actors who I had to ask to re-record. And I just said, just get your phone and just use your microphone in your headpiece in a closet and just do that. And it sounded better than, these fancy microphones that they had. I think for me, it's important to have a nice warm sound and no reverb.
Okay.
So for me, I like that room tone. You can't do anything with that, especially when you're trying to have an intimate scene with Funky and Stephanie. You can't have that room echo. Those are the two important things. And I was really nervous about asking the actors to re-record, but they did it, and I asked, they did it, and they did it glad, because they want to sound good too.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And that's
I'm not
beautiful.
really, yeah, thank you. I'm not really good with technical stuff. Like, I go on like Facebook and Instagram and these meetups and these sites, and, they talk about their microphone setups and their, inputs. And I'm not that savvy when it comes to that. I feel that if the voice sounds good, if you're, especially, like, I know I keep dwelling on Gabby, but the way she's able to manipulate and her voice so that you can hear that love or that anxiety or that fake uh, uh, feeling of confidence, as long as that's coming through and you don't get that reverb, we're good.
Oh, that makes you, like you said, like you're a director, because you are instructing or guiding these different actors and actresses to get the quality of production that you want. So that's definitely a great asset to you. I'm glad you got that experience, for sure. For sure.
Thank
So
you.
how I always end the Renaissance Exchange is asking this question. And the question is, if you could identify with any animal, what would it be?
I'm gonna say rabbit. I I because wow, this is such a good question. So I had pet rabbits growing up. Number one. And I just loved, they were easy to care for. They were low maintenance. And yeah, I think, and they were just happy to exist as long as they got some lettuce. Um, they didn't, you didn't have any wild dogs around them. They were good. So, and I like that they were quiet, because I'm a quiet person, and I consider myself low maintenance. So, and I feel like once I get comfortable and content. It's hard for me to go outside of my comfort zone. I mean, there's like doing Harlem Queen is like huge outside of my comfort zone. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I love that because you get a sense of personality and how people resonate with things. And you diving into the unknown, that just expands who you are as a person. And when you're diving there, there's always gonna be growth. So I appreciate you. You're destined for greatness. I appreciate the time that we shared together. It was great dialogue. I'm just in a state of appreciation. Thank you.
Same. Back at you, back at you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this and for listening and like this is a dream come true. I know that sounds cliche, but to have someone listen and it resonate with someone like you, how it resonated with you is so affirming for me and encouraging. And as an artist, you know, I that's my hope and dream. So thank you so much. And if you need me to look at scripts, if you want to figure out how to do an audio drama,
Yeah.
I'm available. I love, you know, sharing what experience I have.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I see us collaborating for sure.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
absolutely. So tell the people where they can find your masterpiece.
Thank you. So I'm on Instagram and it's called Harlem Queen Audio Drama on Instagram. And on Twitter, it's at Audio Harlem.
Okay. And what streaming platforms can they listen on?
Oh, so you can listen to the audio drama on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google. I think there's a Google app, um, just about anywhere where you can listen to a podcast.
All right. Everyone go check that out. I'm telling you, it's worth the experience. And that can be an introduction to the Harlem Renaissance, as she said. Just go explore. Just go explore. It's worth it. So thank you again. And you'll definitely hear from me, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.